Jazz is many things to many people, but it is basically America's classical music.
William Edward Taylor, universally known as Billy, was born in North Carolina, and it is hard to say what he hasn't accomplished. He is a performer, a lecturer, a regular television host, a radio station owner, a soloist with symphony orchestras, a trustee of the Rockefeller Foundation, a member of the National Council of the Arts, and a composer.
In the jazz world, it's widely known that Billy wears many professional hats. He's a gifted pianist, he's a composer, an author, educator, and a television and radio personality. And you could say that he has lived much of the history of jazz.
I was born in Greenville, North Carolina.
When did you start taking piano lessons?
When I was about 7.
Were you dragged kicking and screaming, or was it something you wanted to do?
No, I wanted to play. I told my dad, everybody in my family was musicians. My father was a choir director. He was a dentist, but he was a choir director. And his father was a Baptist minister. So all of my grandfather's children played the piano and sang. My music teacher told my dad, I have a brother who's 5 years younger than I, and she told him, she said, Dr. Taylor, your sons are musically very gifted, but the older one, me, is never going to do anything. He said, no, Rudolph is going to be a very fine, he works, he studies his lesson, he's going to be a good pianist, and so, you know, nurture this one, you know, forget the older one. I mean. George Walker, the great black composer, was ahead of me in school. And he played so much piano, so much classical piano, that I knew that I couldn't get in the orchestra playing piano. So I said, well, they do have saxophones in the orchestra. And this, you know, they had, in addition to the regular woodwinds, because it was a high school, they also had saxophones. So I picked up a saxophone and was lucky enough to sit next to Frank West, who then, in his teens, was almost as magical as he is now as a grown-up. He was awesome on the tenor saxophone. I realized I better go back to the piano. So that Frank really was one of the guys that made me practice, because I said, I want to play piano like he plays the saxophone. I had been fascinated by the things that I heard about them when they were both young kids and working with Earl Hines and so forth. By the time I got to New York, they had developed considerable reputations, you know, among musicians. And so I wanted to play that. I wanted to play that music. I wanted to get closer to it. And I did. I got a chance to sit in with Dizzy Gillespie on 52nd Street. But I always wanted to have a quartet, because I want, one of my favorite musicians was Nat Cole, and he had a trio, and I love the way the trio sounded. I thought that was a unique sound for pianists, and I even sang a little bit in those days, you know, because I wanted to emulate him in that regard. I didn't sound like him, but you know, I could hold a tune or something, and so I did something along those lines. But after I saw how well Errol and a few others did with just playing, I said, I'm going to focus on, I mean, I got to hear Tatum, and I got to hear people like that. I said, yeah, you know, let me focus on the playing.
And focus he did for the next half-century, becoming not only a celebrated jazz pianist, but a composer with over 350 songs to his credit, as well as works for theater, dance, and symphony orchestra. Billy's musical talents, matched only by his vigorous dedication to nurturing jazz and creating new forums and opportunities for the artist to perform it. Today, on the eve of his 87th birthday, Billy Taylor continues to encompass that rare combination of creativity, intelligence, vision, commitment, and leadership. qualities that make him one of our most cherished national treasures.
Amen.
Amen, for sure. I only wanted to play. I mean, I think music chooses people. I don't think people choose music. I can't conceive of living without music. I can't think of any music that gives me as much pleasure, any music that says as much to me as an individual as jazz has said to me over my life.